sarcasm. But today is question and answers as we come to the end of the direct mail module. We start in a couple of days' time on the final module talking about postcards, which is a really cool thing, but I won't spoil that for you. But today we wanted to sort of talk through questions across all the things that we've been learning over the last few weeks. So without further ado, I'd like to bring the fabulous Pete Williams onto the screen. Pete, how are you doing?
Very well, Mark. Very, very well, mate. This is pretty cool.
And I should also add, Pete, he won't like me saying this, but Pete did get engaged earlier this week, and so, mate, I want to say congratulations. You enjoying being an engaged man?
I am, mate. I was didn't really think through the back end of the proposal, in that the house is now already covered in wedding magazines, and we're having to already do the guest list so we can work out how big a venue we need and all this sort of stuff. I didn't really think through, so it's been interesting the last couple of days.
Fantastic. All right, well, look, let's get into the questions. There have been plenty of questions sent through to us. Some of them have been quite personal, well, not personal about Pete, but personal with regards to people's niches. And so we're not going to take those on air here today. But instead, we're going to go and sort of focus on some of the more generic ones that we've been sent in. So, Pete, the first one for you, which I thought was a fantastic question, and I can't believe you actually know the answer to this, but what is the best day to send out a direct mail piece?
Look, it's a weird sort of question, because realistically, the only correct answer is to test it. Because everyone's sort of niche is different, and certain things operate differently in certain business units and different niches, of course. Fundamentally, the rule of thumb that I've heard is Tuesdays and Wednesdays as a delivery day is the best day. So you have to sort of work backwards from that to work out roughly, it might be 2 or 3 days postage in your local area, then it might take 3 or 4 days for the distribution house to actually print and send the mailing out if you're not doing it yourself. So the best thing is to try and get it there on a Tuesday and Wednesday, and then just work backwards from there. But that's just sort of a rule of thumb that a lot of people speak about. But again, realistically, like everything, unfortunately my answer is just going to be test it for yourself.
Absolutely, testing is everything. I actually heard that about email as well. If you're trying to pitch to somebody on email, a Tuesday is often a good time to do it, or send it last thing on a Monday night, so it's the first thing they see on a Tuesday morning. So that's good advice. Now, another question which has come up, there's been some sort of unethical direct mail practices going on, and someone's asked a question about the fact they received an invoice, what they thought was an invoice for a particular product or service. But actually, that invoice wasn't an invoice, and actually it was a pretty shady press release or piece of direct mail to get somebody to buy something. What's your take on that?
Yeah, this is getting more and more common, unfortunately, and it happens quite a bit in the domain space, actually, which is kind of funny given we're talking about offline marketing for internet marketers, and domains and all that sort of stuff is such an important part of our business. And what was happening, and I literally received one in our office probably 3 weeks ago or so, and it was basically an invoice to renew our domain name. Now, the issue is that the actual person or the company sending that invoice wasn't actually our host or our domain registrar. It was someone who's actually trying to be a bit sneaky and send us an invoice, which fundamentally is a high-priced renewal invoice, which also means we're going to actually transfer our domain from our current registrar over to them. So rather than paying $8.95 a year for the domain, or whatever it might be you're paying, their invoice is like for $69. So it's quite a big jump in what your domain renewal cost should be. But for a lot of businesses, that lands on the accountant's desk or the business owner's desk, and they are none the wiser. They're not as educated as us. And what's happening is they're just paying that invoice to ensure their domain doesn't go away. And what's happening is it's transferring the domain across to the other person. It's still registered in your name and all that sort of stuff from that perspective of being legal, but it's very grey, and it's very sort of trying to be deceptive in the way they're doing marketing. So I think that's a very bad branding perspective, and it's very rare that I actually ever use the word branding, but you don't really want to do that, because I know, if you sort of push the envelope, pardon the pun, too far, you'll actually find that you could end up in some serious legal trouble by sort of doing some deceptive marketing, because again, particularly in Australia, that's against the Trade Practices Act, and is most cases around the world.